Did my sound just change?
No, it sounds good right now.
Did my sound just change?
No, it sounds good right now.
Okay. Did my sound just change?
No, it sounds good right now.
Okay. All right. It looks like we're good on that. Sound just change?
No, it sounds good right now.
Did my sound just change? Okay, I'm muting those. I'm going to get back into the LinkedIn. There it is. See if it has sound. Did my sound just change?
No, it sounds good right now.
Did my sound just change?
No, it sounds good right now.
Okay. All right. Looks like we're good on that. Yep.
No, it sounds.
Okay, it looks like we're good on the stream now. So anyway, welcome back. Anybody that's still hung in there or back with us, we're now live, and I believe we can hear everybody. Scott Glenn, how you doing on 4/15/2026, the Steel Guys episode?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Sorry about the little IT mess up that we got going on there, but hopefully we got it worked out and everybody can hear us. Hopefully everybody's not out running to the post office to send their tax returns in the United States anyway.
Yeah, that'll be, so we have a, it's working, yes. Thank you. I don't know, we had, again, I had just hit a button to mute something because it was getting some bad sound, but for some reason our original push out was, we practiced it and had it all set up and everything was working, but then it went away. But anyway, what's been going on the last 7 days here in the metal supply chain? You know, when I did the research again into this, it seemed like the initial stuff was the same as it's been for 2 or 3 weeks. The 232s that were revised on April 6th, and then the hot rolled coil pricing seemed to have peaked and leveled off, not a downturn, but a peak. So they're up there, which a lot of times as soon as they hit the peak, it starts, dropping back down a little bit, but it seems to have stabilized.
Yeah, I don't know about this time. I mean, from some of the stuff that I've been reading, it might stay there for a while. I know that some of the data that you had indicated was, I mean, it's ticked up a little bit since then, even just today. But yeah, steel mills are at capacity, and with that, anyway, we'll keep talking about it. But I'm not so sure that it's going to turn around and go down the other way anytime real soon. But time will tell. It depends upon what happens in the geopolitical world that we live in, I suppose.
What happens out there, we'll be watching for it. We'll be watching and keeping our. I don't know. I got a little feedback in yours too. It seems like it's going through 2 channels. So, I just knocked one off. I can still hear you, but I don't know how to make sure that it's still being broadcast.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me see. You're talking right on that.
I'm not talking, but I will talk. Just today we kind of try to follow a little bit of an outline and on what we're going to talk about. And I have a tendency to go all over the place at what comes off the top of my head. So I'll just kind of follow your lead on the conversation once we get it all set up.
Yeah, well, the way we generally do this is take it from, the supply chain forward, take it from the mines, right. What's going on in the mines. Is there anything in the mining that's changed? But it seems to be that the iron ore and bauxite supply is stable, but the Middle East shipping disruptions have new full value tariffs continued to support higher aluminum feedstock costs, especially for Asian and European smelters. So, the costs are going up, which eventually means that the prices will go up.
Right.
So you can kind of watch that here, and that's kind of what's going on in the mining side of things. And then you drop down into the mills, and again, they're running at the 76. This is more of the hot rolled carbon mills, I believe. When I talk about this, it's just steel mills, and I'm assuming that's what that is. I've always just assumed that because it goes with the HRC pricing, they're after. So And we did talk about that a couple weeks ago too. That 76 to 77% capacity is almost 100%. They always look at that. They always
Yeah,
look at that.
I saw that number at 79% on some information that I was reviewing this morning, and I know that we had talked about that. It's been kind of teetering right in that 76 to 77% for the past 3 weeks or so that we've been talking about. But I saw 79%, which, and again, I don't know if that's just hot rolled or if that's just all steel products or if that includes aluminum. I don't know, but I was I saw that capacity at 79%, which was pretty high.
Yeah, compared because we talked about that the other day. That actual, the actual. If you run it, I always thought the max you could run was 100%, but actually, the way it's calculated, there's shutdowns and things in there. So they were actually the highest it's ever been was what 110%. So the
Right.
mills weren't doing shutdowns and doing all that stuff. They were calculated to do shutdowns, but they didn't. So we were producing more than you would expect on a normal
Right.
basis, which became 110%. So that's why I think an 80% is running pretty good with 20% of it
Yes.
always being in a shutdown
Yes.
or revamp mode because you just can't run
Yeah.
those things.
Nevertheless, the domestic steel mills are doing quite well right now, which is kind of leads to what I was talking about. That the pricing is going to stay. I assume that the pricing is going to stay at the level it's at for a little while longer. I don't know that we've even reached the peak, but again, time will tell, depending upon what happens in the marketplace. Because there's a lot of other factors that we'll talk about here in a minute. But there's a lot of other factors that come into play there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, again, costs of the product, supply chain, whether deliveries go out or whatever, and then demand side of things, they're all factors do find their way into the calculation.
Sure. And transportation costs. I mean, that's kind of what I was alluding to. That's
In and out, right?
that's something that people are paying a little bit more attention, a lot more attention to these days. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, especially an imported product, when it's good shipped on the seas. If you're have your source domestically in the trucks, I think trucks are okay at this point in time. But then again, the
Well,
cost of diesel going to
trucks. Yeah, trucks are okay with the exception of diesel pricing. I mean, diesel pricing has gone up 50%. And again, that goes back to the fuel costs and all that kind of stuff, the cost of a barrel of oil. And, right now, diesel costs is up. And a lot of people, you know, paying a lot of attention to that because that's a significant cost for a lot of people in the United States, transportation on trucks.
yes,
Yeah.
and getting that, and then people shut them down and they can't afford to bring it to you. So anyway, that's kind
Right.
of what's going on there. The Chinese mills have maintained a high output, which has let the rebars near the ones about 3,040 per ton, while the European and Asian aluminum smelters have faced elevated premiums due to revised 232 tariffs. So again, that's that balance of can you ship product in, or is it going to lower your capacity, not your capacity, but your output
Right.
if you don't have the orders. If the price is too high and you get them somewhere else, they're going to shut down their mills and not keep it, which restricts supply, which then eventually will raise prices. Kind of funny.
Right.
Um, moving into the service center and industrial distributor sector of the supply chain. The global service centers have adjusted pricing and inventory to the new full value tariff rules while leveraging network density for faster lead times. That's the same news as last week. They didn't really update that much. That still is adjusting itself, I think,
Right.
for the full
Right.
value tariffs. I think as people
Yeah.
work their way through inventories and replace their inventories at the new 232s and that kind of stuff, it all kind of continually adjusts. And then eventually it'll be adjusting the other way.
Right.
as far as I can
It
tell
always
from my history.
it always has a tendency to be a little slower on the downside, as we talked about last week. But nonetheless, people will
Slower on the
adjust.
downside usually accelerates itself pretty quickly, doesn't it? As soon as one guy starts to drop it, it's a domino effect. Who can get to the bottom the
Well,
fastest?
yeah, but people try and get what they can on their inventory. But anyway, that's yeah,
It's
people are
again replacement
quick
cost,
to
first in,
raise
first out,
prices.
last in, first out, first, all those different accounting procedures and the way everybody has to
Right,
adjust the way the competitors do it.
right.
Um, let's see here. Let me just double check see if there's anything in the chats that anybody has any questions. Nothing over on the YouTube channel. Nothing popping in on the. I didn't put the new chat link in there, but I'm gonna do a quick howdy on LinkedIn. Muting those. I'm gonna get back into the LinkedIn. I can hear myself on the LinkedIn, so we're good there. And
Okay.
I'm not gonna leave it up. Let's keep moving on to the fabricators and engineering firms. Again, fabricators seem to have absorbed the higher costs from the adjustment 232s on April 6th. And then
Yeah,
there's always those.
can we talk about that just a minute, Jim? Because I know we talked a little bit about that last week, but there was a revision on April 6th on the tariffs, and it went from 50% on, I can't remember the wording on it, but then there was a derivative tariff of 25% on derivative products. So does that ultimately mean, I mean, if there's, and I'm just going to say for the sake of this conversation, this is like if somebody's sending in some 316 stainless or whatever, and there's a 50% tariff on the product, but there's an additional 25% on the molybdenum in there. Is that the derivative product in the stainless, or how do I don't quite understand that. Do you?
We've always, as we sell stainless steel welded pipe, has that been subject to the 232s? Yes. That is not a mill product. Necessarily they have to take the coil, right? The coil is what I would have thought would have been the main 232 steel, iron and steel and aluminum product is coil, maybe bar. You melt the bars and ingots. But then you have to take that coil and roll pipe out of it, which is a derivative product from the coil. However, it's a full steel product. It's 100% stainless steel, right? So
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a flange. What about a flange? Made from an ingot.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, I mean, those are all full steel products. I mean, that is all steel, you know.
Well, yeah.
Um, I,
But you're saying like a bicycle.
I
That's
don't,
what we kind of run with the bicycle. The spokes in the bicycle. You got a seat that's made from leather, and the springs that are in that seat are made from some kind of tool steel or some kind of spring
right.
steel or whatever. And it's like, well, so that is the bicycle seat is partly a derivative product and partly just other products,
Right.
right? So it's
The shaft on a bicycle seat is metal. So I mean, that would be, that would be almost a nightmare to figure that out. Maybe it is. I don't know. But
is
I mean,
that what a
even if
derivative
you're,
product is?
yeah, even if you're a high level bicycle, you're sending a titanium frame in, and the seat has a carbon steel shaft. I mean, you gotta, how much percentage is the carbon steel? How much is the percentage is the titanium? I don't know. I don't know if anybody out there has a clarification on that. I'd love to hear from you, but I certainly am still trying to figure it out. I don't think it
Uh,
affects us personally because we're selling. I mean, we're not selling anything that has derivative products in it. So I don't know. Anybody out there, help us out.
uh,
Jim's doing some chatted on up.
do some more chatting about it. Just asking what a derivative product is, see if they can answer that real quick. Based on the information, the new 232 tariffs, which took effect on April 6th, have significant expanded the definition and tax structure of the derivative products. These are the downstream goods made from steel, aluminum, or copper that are now subject to duties on their full customs value rather than their metal content. Oh, that sounds to me like the bicycle used to be they would just do the 232s on the spokes or whatever, as opposed to now it's on the full bike at
So now, if
25%.
it has a carbon steel tube shaft on the seat, and that everything else is plastic, for the sake of this conversation, is you're going to pay 25% on the bicycle,
Full
the whole
value.
bicycle, not just the carbon tube shaft.
Full value right now. While the exact list of derivatives are determined by specific HTSUS codes, harmonized tariff, common derivative products under 232s include construction and industrial, the steel nails, staples, tacks, and fasteners, aluminum wires, cables, and stranded wire. Okay, so if you have a plastic coating on a cable or a wire, the whole product is now taxed at 25%.
Instead of 50% on just the wire portion of that product that has a derivative.
I suppose, and maybe that wasn't even on there. Maybe that harmonized tariff code wasn't even included in a steel product before, because it had the cable on there or something. I don't know. So the infrastructure, tubes and pipes, wire and mesh articles, and tanks or reservoirs. So a tank is made of steel. It wasn't necessarily classified as steel, but now it's fully. I guess the forming of that would have been classified not the steel part of it weighs extra. I don't know how that would have even done before. Energy and utility products, certain metal intensive industrial equipment and electrical grid equipment. Though some in this category have temporary reduced rate through 2027. Consumer and packaging, metal containers, even if fully imported, aluminum cans, cookware, and furniture. Transportation, various machinery and motor vehicle parts. All right, so the 15% rule and exclusions. If the total weight of the steel, aluminum, or copper in an article is 15% or less, it is generally exempted from the 232 tariffs.
Well, there you go. It has to have over 15% of steel or metal in it.
1.5,
yeah, 25% tariff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if it's over 15%, if the metal content exceeds 15% by weight, the entire value of the product is taxed at the applicable 232 rate.
For the entire thing, even the leather on the bicycle seat, but whatever. Okay, well, that helps answer that question. Thanks, thank you, AI.
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly. Thank you for working on LinkedIn. All right, thank you for letting me know it's working on LinkedIn. How is the increase in the composite manufacturing and 3D printed production inspected the raw steel buying sector? Ooh. Let me read that again there, try to figure that one out and see if I can. I don't know. I haven't really delved into the 3D printing and composite manufacturing too much, so I don't really. But let's see. How has the increase in composite manufacturing and 3D printed production impacted the raw steel buying sector? I haven't seen much of that impact in the products that we've done, or even the service centers that we sell to. Our business is pretty much, selling to service centers, and what we hear from the service centers, that would be the question I think that you might be able to answer better. What you're hearing from your customers, because our service centers aren't really doing the 3D printing and composite manufacturing. They're selling to the people that are, I think. Would you kind of deduce that same way, Scott?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, and just based on the definition that you just provided on the derivative products, I would say that the 3D printing and composite manufacturing probably doesn't include any metal. I don't know that there's any printing or composite manufacturing made that includes any metal that is over 15%. So therefore, I don't think it's a direct effect on the full metal products that we deal with.
Well, are they printing steel panels, or are they printing, complete steel houses or whatever? Or what,
Yeah,
can you?
it could be, and obviously at some point in time that's going to make have an effect. But
And not necessarily even
um,
on the import product. You're not even working on import. What about how is that affecting the domestic market? A domestic 3D printer, changing the way you do. And I guess that's a substitute product, and in economics, if you put a substitute product that's cheaper and does the same job, it's going to replace that market share. Now, how
right,
much of it is out there doing that, I don't know. I haven't seen too much of that. I haven't seen too much news in that. But again, we're not that focused on the end user market to how that's changing. Other than the fact, if we do hear it from our service centers that that's what's happening to them.
yeah,
Uh, it,
right, right. I don't think it is affected anything specifically that we deal with. I mean, it's just like I don't think there's anybody that's doing a composite or a 3D printing a flange. I don't know.
uh,
As opposed to
Roz,
a Ford.
good point. Good point. Roz just indicated that the drones, the drone manufacturers are moving to that, the composites and the steel printing. So yeah, there's one heck of a lot of drones being made right now too. Delivery of product, delivery of weapons, delivery of all the spy satellite or spying drones, and I mean it's kind of autonomous vehicle production in the sky. I do.
Yeah.
For some reason, I read something. I don't know if I was dreaming or thinking. Because I heard that Amazon you can accept delivery by drone these days or something. Or they have some of that
Uh-huh.
somewhere. I don't know if that was specific to
I've
a market
I've
or.
yet to hear that. I've yet to hear that. I know that they were talking about doing it, but I don't know if it's gotten to that point where they're doing it yet.
Yeah, that could have been 2 a.m. the other day when I was. The back of my eyelids told me that that's what was happening or something. I don't know. You know,
Hey, you're
dreaming
coming
that.
up with a vision.
Yeah, but I thought I read that in the news. But again, my dreams are that vivid, I guess. That's why you can't be 100% sure all the time about everything you talk about.
This is true. This is true. The mind does some interesting things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I guess is,
Well,
yeah.
thanks for hopping on there and throwing that in there. We appreciate your
Sorry we didn't have a
participation.
better answer for you in that, but it's a great something to keep in mind and keep an eye out
Yeah.
for. It's progressing because that's what we still talk about is even the autonomous vehicles. How that's affecting the largest employer, not employer, the largest job. I think in 46 of the states is transportation. Delivery
Yeah.
trucks. I mean even grocery stores have employees that are driving trucks these days, and all the
Sure.
Amazon deliveries, FedEx, and taking the food from the farm to the market, and
Yep.
cross country, delivering the imported products from the ports to the warehouses and warehouse to warehouse. Whew, imagine there's just a lot
Yep.
of vehicles that are out there um, transporting
Well, yeah, there's a
products.
lot of transition going on in our industry for sure. And that certainly is a big one. Yeah, and then AI and how that is a part of AI, and only in a specific sector of the industry that AI is going to affect. Yeah.
So moving into the end user sector, what are the markets looking like? I know we covered the news covered this week the automotive, the construction, and the process industries. I did ask it more for the process industries because that's we're interested in the A312 half through 4 inch that we're building the Atlantic Steel. We're working with Atlantic Steel on a grassroots mill being built in the Dominican Republic where there's no duties against the country or that there's no mill yet in there, and there's short lead times to the East Coast is about a 2 week cycle for shipping. So if they have it in inventory and can package it up, you can probably get a pretty good lead time, which is one of the reasons they chose the Dominican Republic as a place to manufacture their products. So there's 12 new pipe mills being put in there to uh, produce the half through 304, 316, A312. Am I missing anything there, Scott? Welded.
Schedule 10 and 40.
10 and 40.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
To start with and see what's
Yep.
going on out there. So anybody that's interested in receiving some samples as soon as we start the production up on that, I'd love to send you some samples and take a look at it and let us know what your thoughts are. Um, hopefully then we can work on a trial order past that point. And we are probably
Yes.
going to start by accepting smaller trial orders, and have a minimum somewhere around 5,000 pounds or something like that. We'll pick up the difference in freight from the container load, so it's a competitive price, and get it in there. So please, if you're interested, my email is jimglenn, JIMGLENN @steelrep.com. And Scott, why don't you tell them yours real quick?
Mine is Scott Glenn, 2 T's and 2 N's, all one word, Scott Glenn @steelrep.com.
There you go. That's how to get a hold of us there on our emails. Um, and again, we'd love to send you some. If you're interested, hit us up. Put you on the list as soon as we start the production. Keep you in touch with how our production, how the mill's coming along.
Yes.
The buildings and the mills and all the stuff. And we're going to be fully certified to the A312, all complete compliance, quality certs, things like that are going to all be put in place over the course of the next few months to get everything up and running. So it's certified A312 pipe mill coming
Yes,
soon
indeed.
to a theater near you.
Yeah. Yeah. We're excited about that. Looking forward
So
to
the
getting that rolling.
the automotive sector, again, there's been that aluminum rising costs. There's been the tariffs that have that pressure. And I believe, did we see something a while back? Somebody actually did put a new stamping house in somewhere to make automotive parts, somewhere over on the East Coast somewhere. They made an
Yeah,
investment
somewhere.
in.
I think we had talked about that several weeks ago. I don't
Yeah.
remember the specifics of that, but yeah, that's. I remember hearing something about that.
See what's happening in the construction. The housing starts and metal building projects have experienced input cost inflation from the rising hot rolled coil and plate prices. Which again, that's eventually what you start to see there is a slowing of that because the costs rise, and the demand then starts to slow a little bit at that pricing level. So, what trade off there to keep everything under control for a while.
Little economics 101, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then we have the process industries with chemical. I'd asked this particular to see if there's any new projects out there that we missed. I didn't see any be released to the information, but sometimes that information is a little behind. You happen to miss it, or a lot of those things don't make the front page of the Wall Street Journal. You have to dig into the trades on that stuff, and some of those trades are a little less, or monthly publications and things like that. But anyway, the demand has been strong demand for the piping and fabricated products, overall. So that's a good thing. And then some recent upgrades in some oil and gas and chemical processing plants, uh, especially in the Middle East and Asia, have increased orders for the 304 316 stainless duplex and nickel alloys used in these reactors, heat exchangers, distillation columns, and piping systems. So that seems to be, what do we have here? That it was going to actually be a pretty strong year for projects the rest of the year. The forecast is a pretty strong year going into the first quarter of next year. It's still looking pretty good. So even with
That's what
the
yeah.
issues, you still have to have these products. You still have to run the economies. You still have to keep things rolling. And in war, sometimes it puts some constraints in there, but it also puts some pressure on making more products in some ways. Using a little more steel and weapons and vehicles and all that stuff. So there's some bad with the good. There's some silver linings in the bad. In the, what do you call it, in the dark
It's
clouds.
always the case.
Yeah. And I don't know, we've kind of reviewed the 232s. That's the last part of the section here, but on the revised situation there, I don't see there's anything really changed there other than, let's see, it does say that the global distributors are increasing use of the FTZs, bonded warehouses, and alternative routes. We do also, if you're interested in stainless steel coil and have any inquiries on coil, we've put a few, I think, smaller size coils on the floor around the country here. If you're interested in finding out where they're at, give us a shout on that as well. There's some sitting around if you're interested in picking up a quick delivery. I'd love to give you a quote on that stuff. Let's see here. That's kind of about it. The keeping the overall summer concise. Okay, everything's pretty
Yeah,
well ready.
it's I mean it's pretty consistent for the past 3 or 4 weeks. It's been a lot of the same subjects that we've talked about, and certainly the geopolitical aspect of things. What's going on between over in the Gulf. When we come up with a resolution on that and the dust settles, and it'll be interesting to see how everything all works out. But I think long run, I hope that everybody benefits and it becomes a positive outcome for everybody involved. That's the objective, I would assume.
Yes, sir. Sounds fair enough. So I
Yeah.
believe that's about it for the April 15th episode of the Steel Guys. We'll be
Yes.
hitting it up again. What did we say before? We're going to be chatting it up again here next.
Chat it on up. Yeah.
Chat it on up with us next week on the 22nd. That'll be 7 days. 15 plus 7 is 22. So 10 a.m. Central Time. We'll be hitting this up a little bit better, and we will also practice again even stronger next time, so we don't have any audio issues when we go into it. I thought we had done that well enough this time, but we're going to make it extra well. We're going to learn from our mistakes and do it right. We've been doing this a long enough time. I think it would have already gone smoothly, but
the thing that's difficult is it doesn't save the changes that you made. It seems like and then you come back in and there's a change somewhere you have to.
Or we try to do something different and better, and it doesn't really work out better.
Yeah. Well, we'll get it figured out. Thank you everybody for joining in with us. We appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing you and talking to you next week.
Ditto. You have a good week there, and we'll see everybody soon out there.